So my long-term build plan for this Stepside Silverado is kind of to make what I would consider to be the ultimate factory sports truck if I had unlimited access to the GM parts bin from like 1999 all the way to present. So I'll mix and match a whole bunch of cool factory parts to build a really cool sport truck. And a lot of that is kind of going to revolve around the drivetrain. So we'll have a 4L80, we're going to do an NV149, we're going to have an 8¼ differential up front from like a Silverado SS or a Denali. And we actually have a lot of those parts, but that's also going to extend to the little spin around part that's going to be bolted on top of the engine. But today we're going to continue that quote unquote OEM plus upgrade theme to do a bit of a visual makeover on the Stepside. So we have a new set of wheels and tires, and we have some center console pieces that we're going to be painting up to kind of convert the little shorty console to a full length one that flows into the dash. So I guess just kind of jumping right in with the wheels and tires. When I bought it, the truck had these 16-inch, I think they're Suburban or Tahoe wheels. They've got some Bridgestone Dueler AT Revo 2s, I think, on them, 265, 75, 16, and the tires are practically brand new. Like, I've done a couple of burnouts on them, but they are old, but they have great tread on them. These will be for sale by the time you guys see the video, but I needed to have something to replace them. Now, I do get a lot of crap from people, but I absolutely love OEM takeoff wheels on trucks like this because they fit great. They're a hub-centric design. Usually they're a little bit lighter weight than most aftermarket wheels are, which is good for performance reasons. And they look awesome. I mean, GM spends a lot of time designing cool wheels. I was on Facebook Marketplace just yesterday, in fact, and I scored a set of 2021 Silverado takeoff wheels. These are an 18 by 8.5, and they came to me with 265, 65 18s on them. Although I will say these tires are garbage. I knew that when I went to buy them, but I mainly wanted to get them for the wheels. So I kind of was trying to picture these on this truck, and to be honest, I don't love this design, but the price was right, and it's kind of like my second favorite wheel. My absolute favorite 18 is these guys right here, which normally these were bolted to the back of the UglyTruck. So I think what my plan is, I'm actually, instead of doing like the switcheroo, because I need new tires on the UglyTruck, and I actually really, really like the wheels that are on there, which I just showed you. I love these. They need new tires because number one, the tires on the back, even though they only have like 1,000 miles on them, they're for some reason like completely wore out. Number two, after lowering the truck down, the tires that are on there are 265, 60 18s. They're just a little bit too tall for that truck with a 4.6 drop. So instead of putting new tires on both wheels, basically what I'm gonna do is I have a second pair of Toyos that I'm gonna put on the back here. When I bought these, I kind of suspected that the back tires wouldn't last very long. So I bought an extra pair for the back. I'll get those switched out, and I'll get these 2014 Silverado wheels on the Stepside, and then I'll eventually get a new set of tires for these on the UglyTruck. For now, these will fit, although they'll probably rub a little bit worse. But because the tires are kind of sort of on their way out, we're going to have a lot of fun with those before we put the real tire on. And I think on that one, we'll go with a 275 45 18. I'll probably do, because I do need to get like a drag set of wheels and tires, but because I'm going to be doing like the Rocky Mountain Race Weeks and like drag and drive style events, I want just a kind of an inexpensive highway tire and a set of stock wheels that I can just kind of cruise around on and not have to worry about damaging a good drag tire. And then I'll have another set of like drag radials on maybe a 15 that I'll have just for when we're at the track. So we'll kind of swap back and forth. But anyway, today's plan, we're going to get new tires on these wheels, get them mounted on the truck. So let's go to the tire shop. So I dropped the 2 tires off to Les Schwab this morning, and it's only about an hour later and they've already got them mounted up. So that's awesome. We'll get these bolted onto the step side in just a minute. But first, I want to take care of the center console. This truck is an LS package, which means it has power windows and a few other odds and ends. And I don't know if this is actually original. It has the little half console right there, which I like, but it is missing this big piece that goes between the console and the dashboard. I know they made trucks like this without that piece, but because I'm never going to have a floor shifter and there's no seat in the middle anyhow, I don't really need that space, so I'd rather have the storage and the looks of the full-length console. I did put out some feelers trying to come by a graphite color. I think that's what is considered as graphite. Trying to find just the graphite center section of the console, but most everybody wants to sell the whole entire thing, and they usually want a lot of money for them. So anyway, I had somebody from Mohawk Motors reach out to me. They part out GMT 800 trucks, and he said he'd hook me up with a console. Now, we weren't able to actually find one that's the right color, so I will do some painting on it, but I do have a really nice condition front console piece. So check out Mohawk Motors if you need any sort of like GMT 800 interior stuff. But anyway, this one does have a little a cassette deck right here, which we will swap that out with a pocket because I have my other console down there from the UglyTruck, and that one's in pretty rough shape, but at least it has the good pocket. So I'll swap that out. We'll tear this apart and we'll paint it. And the coating that I'm going to be using is from SEM. They make some pretty good interior stuff. And just from doing some research on the web, I found a color that it looks like is pretty darn close. They call it graphite right here. That's the part number 15303. Just kind of by comparing the cap, it definitely doesn't look close. Like the interior looks a lot more blue, and this is kind of more gray. But all the pictures I've seen online of people painting said that the SEM 15303 graphite is the color that you want. So I guess we'll find out. It'll at least be a lot closer than the tan. And maybe depending on the light, it'll be sort of close enough. So anyway, let's get that console blown apart. Let's get it scuffed up and shot with some color. All right, guys, I'm taking a quick break from the painting. I wanted to give you an update on the Suburban. We put a for sale video up on this guy kind of at the end of December, and I had a ton of response on it. So thank you everybody who reached out about it. It has been sold for a little while now, but we've just been waiting on transportation, and today the shipper has arrived. So we're just taking a quick break from the work in the shop to kind of get this thing loaded up and on its way. And I think it's going to Alabama. But yeah, I'm sad to see it go. I really did like this truck, but We will be getting another OBS Chevy at some point. I'm trying to find like a crew cab short box or potentially even like a long bed dually. I'm not sure yet, but I promise you guys I will have another OBS on the channel at some point. But anyway, just kind of wanted to give the official goodbye to the Suburban. I'll be sad to see it go. The shipper's just down the way here. He's got a dually pickup truck with a gooseneck, and he's got 2 1-tons on the back. So that's where the Suburban's going, but sad to see it go, guys. So we got the back wheels on and the front is still stock, but I just kind of wanted to show you a quick comparison. I still do need to get the proper lug nuts. I have like 2 or 3 left, but the factory lug nuts that have the chrome cover instead of just the outside threaded kind for those little hubcaps that the old wheels used to use. But anyway, I'm loving how they look. They're 18, so they're 2 inches bigger. I love the dish of the wheel, how it kind of looks like it's indented here and it comes out. Because the tire is shorter now, we have a little bit more wheel well to fill out, but my absolute favorite part about this is the offset or the stance, because now those tires are just about perfectly flush with the edge of the fender, where before, this is kind of how they looked, where the tire was sucked way in, and I can't stand that look, and I also can't stand how much sidewall there was on that tire compared to the size of the wheel. So to me, this is just about perfect. So I let all the console parts dry overnight, then we put everything back together and installed it in the truck. And it's really, really simple. If you're gonna try to paint this stuff, definitely take as much apart as you can. It'll certainly make for a much nicer finished product. And it means you don't have to mask off all the areas that are, you know, different colors in the pockets and things like that. And in terms of a color match, I'm actually kind of happy with how it turned out. to be honest, like all the colors inside this interior aren't even the same with each other. So I don't know if along the way some of this stuff was replaced, but like for example, right here in the corner, like the upper dash is kind of bluish. The lower, like this panel there is kind of gray. And even on the door, it's like blue, gray. So maybe there's different plastics that fade at different rates over time. I don't know, but the console actually looks pretty good. Like back here, this original piece, this was definitely more on like the gray side, where the part I just painted is kind of bluish. But then again, the lower dash right there is also sort of bluish. So to me, that kind of blends in about as good as you could expect, given that the rest of this truck has kind of a multicolor interior. So definitely happy with it. And now we've got like a little pocket for storage or whatever. That's like intended for CDs, but you can throw your phone or whatever in there. Of course, we still have the original power outlets and the ashtray area right up there. The only other thing I might have done differently would be to upgrade to like the 2003 and up full-length console that isn't two separate pieces, but to do that you actually have to have the entire lower dash replacement, so the glove box, the console part, and then underneath the steering wheel. But this is what was intended to be in this year of truck, so I'm definitely loving it. It installs super simple. All the holes in hardware are already there, so happy with how the interior turned out. In terms of the outside, also really happy with that. We do have to lower the truck a little bit further, and I was kind of waiting for my wheels to do that. So if you measure, the back is 2 inches higher than the front, or like 1 7/8 inches or 1 3/4 inches. So I do have the drop hangers will bolt onto the frame, and then the front, I'm not going to go much lower. I might like put the drop spindles on, but then raise the torsion bars up, so it'll be pretty much perfectly level front to back. I don't want this truck to be quite as low. I want to have a fairly good CV angle, because this truck is going to be all-wheel drive and we are going to be sending a fair amount of power up front. So we're not going to go for the ultimate low on this truck like we are the UglyTruck. But that's all right. Speaking of UglyTruck, we'll get these swapped out real quick. I have a few minutes left, so there's a couple of things that we need to take care of on the extended cab. So we got the switcheroo taken care of. We have the extendo cab sitting in the shop, and there's two things I want to nail real quick out back here. We are going to be taking care of the links on the Caltracs, as well as making just a little bit more room for these tires. On the Caltracs, I didn't show you guys this, but when I did the flip kit, I actually had to push the axle back 1 inch from center. And I don't know that you can actually tell based on the wheel well, but whenever I put the axle on top of the spring pack, it was like it slides ahead just a little bit. So it wasn't centered perfectly in the notch in the frame, and also the drive shaft was like almost touching. It ran out of slip yoke. It was all the way compressed. So I pushed the axle back by about 1 inch, 1.25 inches, something like that. And everything else lines up perfectly now, but the only problem is on the Caltracs, the link bar is just barely long enough. So as you can see, I have the little roller there just kind of barely touching the top of the leaf spring, which is kind of where you want it for a baseline adjustment. But to get it there, we're just about maxed out, and there's hardly any threads poking into this threaded nut right there. So I ordered a longer pair of bars from Calvert. They're 30.5 inches long instead of 29.5. That's the standard part they had on the shelf. So we'll just get those swapped out real quick. And then finally, we're going to make a little bit of clearance for the tires. These are not obviously the final tire that we're going to be running, but we do need a little more space in here because there's a sharp edge here that potentially could cut the tires. I know they make special fender rolling tools and all that stuff, but as you can tell, the bodywork on this truck is not like pristine by any stretch of the imagination. So I got to apologize to all you paint and bodywork guys. Bumpus, you will not approve of this, but it's hammer time. So the truck's back together. The 30.5-inch Caltrac bar worked out perfectly. The little roller just kind of barely touches the leaf spring, and I've got plenty of threads on either side of that, so I could adjust it with a little bit of preload, or I could back it off and have a little bit of an air gap on there. But we're not going to mess around with like trying to get this thing tuned up and dialed in until we actually get to a racetrack with a prepared surface and, you know, a proper drag tire on the back. But for now, at least, it'll be good enough for kind of doing some runs out on the street. In terms of tire clearance, I'm actually really happy with that, how that turned out, because I could probably run this tire size permanently out back at least, because we've gained about a 1/2 inch of horizontal clearance, and then of course we rolled the fender lip up, so even if the tire ever did sort of contact the inner fender, there's no sharp edge there that's going to cut into the tread and, you know, cause the tire to go flat. So definitely using the hammer and a 2x4 is like not the most elegant way of tackling this problem, but it worked. It got us clearance. And to be honest, on the outside, you can't really tell. Like there's maybe a couple little ripples in the outside there that weren't there before, but to be honest, it doesn't really bother me because look at the rest of the truck. This right here, this is why it earned the nickname the Ugly Truck. Like when I bought it, it was like this, and evidently somebody like backed in or something, but then after the fact, someone tried to bash it out with a hammer, and you can see all those little bumps from the hammer on the backside. So this to me is the appeal of this truck. Like I could drive this thing into a grocery store and not have to worry about a shopping cart being put into the side because it's ugly. This is, like I said, to me, that's the appeal. So anyway, really happy with the fender clearance there, and I'll just kind of show you the other side because this one is the good side of the truck. And yeah, there's maybe a couple little ripples in there, but like I said, I'm happy with it. We've got clearance for the tires, and that's kind of a safety thing. So we're gonna hit the road real quick. I did want to show you up front. There's unfortunately no easy way to do a similar change up here just because these inner fenders, they go in, it's all metal for like 6 inches in there. So you'd have to do a bunch of cutting and welding and kind of relocate that upper inner fender. But like I said, this is not the final tire size. So when we put the short tires on, that'll take care of that problem. So I guess let's just go for a drive. So I was going to wait a little while to do this, but we got junk tires. We have no choice pretty much. Yeah, we had to let off early, guys. It would do that all day, but oh, that is a blast. I love it. Seriously though, if you guys have like junk tires that need to be disposed of, maybe we can make a deal. Maybe I can take care of that for you. That is fun, and it took hardly zero throttle to do that. Seriously, that new torque converter, the Circle D, it is putting in work. I love it. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you again soon.